Welcome to our first episode. I am Colin.
And I am Dylan, and this is the Colin and Dylan Show.
Well, welcome everybody, I guess. So yeah, this is cool.
Yeah,
Our podcast,
first episode.
So, we are going to right out of the bat get it.
Just gonna give you a brief introduction of what we're trying to do here, what we stand for,
Exactly.
you know, those sorts of things.
This is basically our one semi-scripted podcast, just because we want you guys to know what we're all about here. So, this is our biggest thing. We are Deseret-first.
Deseret-first. Yep, that is kind of what we'd
This is what we're about.
Yes, this is what we're about. This is the foundation of what we're doing here.
Oh, and we define Deseret by the Mormon population, right? The highest Mormon population. So Utah, parts of Idaho, the very top,
Pretty much
Idaho.
the Mormon population, specifically in the Mormon Corridor, though.
Exactly.
It's, I know there's like a global Mormon population, and we love them all, but it's more just this cultural identity that is Utah and parts of the surrounding states.
Yeah. See, there's Zion, but we are Deseret. So that's the thing. We are Deseret-first.
Deseret-first. So
This is first. We're also going to say that we are also America first, right?
America first, the line.
Deseret.
We want to be clear about that, because the reason we say Deseret first is because we're trying to play off of that, America first thing, and align ourselves with that. But that also means that we do, our loyalty is to America.
Exactly.
First and foremost, and we want to, as a culture, do what we can to be the most functional we can to contribute to the overarching structure that is America.
Which is America, exactly. So I think for talking about America first, let's start out with that, right? Let's first start out with Americanism versus globalism. Because globalism is now boo.
Yes, this has been the core tenet of America First since the very beginning, since it was first uttered in 2016.
We assembled here today are issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
Right, that is Americanism and not globalism.
Exactly.
And that's a concept that I can get behind.
Exactly.
I'm a big advocate for that type of thing.
Real quick, just to semi-define Americanism is we are for America. It's America first, right?
Yes.
We're not for we can help other countries, but we're not for them,
Yes, and all of our foreign policy and the way we act with other nations should be in America's best interest. Mm-hmm. So, in that sense, it's an economic nationalism, and trying to promote America's economic interests first and foremost, and then also on a domestic level, doing what is best for the American people.
Exactly.
And prioritizing the American people here at home, and not selling out those people to anyone else, whether that be our foreign allies, to NATO, to anybody, to multinational corporations. And I think this is where a lot of people on the left agree, and why a lot of young people are like some of the leftist economic stuff, because it is challenging the multinational corporations and the lobbies and stuff that have this influence over the United States and take away America's sovereignty, really.
Exactly. No, I think that's perfect. Is we are anti large establishment, right? If you know.
Yes, yeah. I mean, consolidation of power, and specifically when that takes away from democratic representation. So while we think we should have strong united structures and stuff, it is also important that we make sure that those power structures are representative of people and that our, economy is meritocratic and represents what people want, that our politics are representative and that the people in politics represent what the people want, and that we also have a cultural state that is representative of us.
Exactly.
And we're not being fed something that is not of our, yeah, exactly.
Which I think just segues right into our next section, which is regionalism.
Regionalism.
Okay, first thing, let's get this very clear. We like regionalism more than federalism, but we are not anti-federalist.
Yes, of course.
We think that here's how we view things. We believe that regionalism should be used through, somewhat against, but mainly through federalism. It should check federalism, but it shouldn't stop.
We're not secessionists in any sense, and as we said before, our priority is to America, but
It's first to Deseret.
yes,
And
culturally, this is something that has happened on the right, where the right is against these identity politics, and I understand that because identity politics on a national stage can be a big problem.
Exactly.
But identity politics are important. What's the point of conservatism if you're not conserving your identity?
Exactly.
So the only way we can properly approach identity in a conservative way is through regionalism and emphasizing regional cultures and regional identities rather than only focusing on what is the American identity.
Exactly.
And this is why when we say regionalism, one of the foremost things we imply by that is sort of a readdressing of how federalism should work.
Exactly.
For example, there's a lot of, we talk about like the drain the swamp, fix some of the issues in the federal government.
Yeah.
And we expect someone to come in and like gut the government from the inside, and that's not going to happen. See, this is why we have these checks and balances for things like this, is that these institutions that are naturally opposed to each other will check each other.
Exactly.
And we have kind of failed at that as the states, actually. And we, as the federal government and also the national economy has grown and consolidated more power, as just happens with the course of history, we haven't balanced that, and we haven't properly done what is necessary to make sure that the ideals of federalism that the forefathers put in place have been maintained to this point.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I also think, just kind of going into our next thing, I feel that kind of fits perfectly, right? First thing, we shouldn't be focused about California, right? Because they have very different identities and thoughts than us. But at the same time, we shouldn't be leaving out California, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true. On a national level.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is why we say that we need to bring identity to a regional level.
Exactly. Like we, as America and the federal government, right? Not America, sorry. Utah, as in the federal government, we should be pushing Mormon ideals, right? Our cultural ideals, right? So, Roe v. Wade, we should not just be like, yeah, abortions everywhere, right? We should be like, no abortions, and California can be like, yes, abortions, right? That's totally fine.
And I think this is one of the problems with how the national government has become, where they're kind of overreaching into they're overreaching into what should be the rights of states.
Yeah.
And they're really damaging our ability to emphasize, exactly, is that we can't have policy and we can't have a government and can't have policy and can't have laws that represent our identity. We all need to agree. And there's a lot of issues that we talk about on a national level that we shouldn't talk about on a national level.
Exactly.
Because they're not national issues. Yeah. They're things that these different cultures throughout the U.S. are supposed to be able to address from their point of view.
And I know I kind of went, going kind of back to abortions, right? I'm not going to just talk about all abortions, but the fact that we had Roe v. Wade where it was a national thing, whether you could get an abortion or not, is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
And 95% I believe it's 95% of abortions since Roe v. Wade have been non-elective.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, elective. Elective is where it's just for your personal choice. Non-elective is when it's necessary for like, important reasons. But
Exactly.
yeah, 95% of abortions since Roe v. Wade have been elective. It's like you choose to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if California, I don't know, but like the idea that we kind of just sat by and said like, okay, like whatever, and the idea that this has to be such a big problem, the idea that the states can't approach it as just the individual states is to some extent a big problem. And I get the arguments why that needs to be addressed on a national level, because people say, it's a matter of your rights and
exactly.
Also like life and death and stuff. So like, there are certain things that there are arguments for why that should be an issue on a federal level.
But they are arguments. They're not, what's the word? They're arguments.
They're not definitive. So the idea that we can at this point have national policy on that is a big problem in my opinion.
Like, I had a friend tell me, they were like, I have a friend in no, it was in Florida. And they're like, I have a friend in Florida who got pregnant and couldn't have abortion. So she had to fly all the way to Georgia. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Right? Like, what are you whining about? Like, and I think that's the thing. It's like,
and also like organizations like Planned Parenthood, won't they like pay to have you, if you're in a state where you can't get an abortion, they will in some circumstances pay to have you go to a state.
And also, so first thing, I want to make this very clear because a lot of people don't understand this, which is first thing, Planned Parenthood has abortions, which I don't like. I think you don't like it.
No, I don't.
No abortions, but they also do other other stuff like they also have like classes teaching you, abstinence, all that sorts of stuff.
I don't know much about Planned Parenthood.
They teach you a lot about how to be like safe. My dad, when he was in medical school, he had to like work for Planned Parenthood. And most of the stuff, which I just want to clarify this because a lot of people think it's just abortions, but it's not. But there are buses to Arizona. They have Utah buses going to Arizona to have an abortion, which is crazy. Like,
yeah,
I guess of course.
But also, here's the thing: is states are supposed to be self-selecting in some senses. So if a state doesn't represent your morals, you should probably move to a different one on some level. Because the majority culture is supposed to be allowed to have policy and have a society that represents what they believe.
Exactly.
And if you don't believe that, you should find a community that you identify with.
Find somewhere else. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's very important. And okay, going kind of back towards that regional idea. Yeah, we kind of went on the abortion topic. No, that's totally fine. I think we need to talk about nationalism in economics.
Nationalism, economics. Whoa, nationalism.
Yeah, you start us off. You should start us off on that one.
All right, nationalism in economics. So this was a big thing. This has been a big thing since 2016 about nationalism in economics. Am I saying that? Like, that's something about that sounds like nationalism in economics.
And we understand. National economics, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of our foreign policy and economics is not in our best interest. A lot of that. And also a lot of the way our economy is aligned, it has been very bad for a lot of people. And I think one of the things, and this is one of the things that Trump ran on that a lot of people liked, was the idea of the reindustrialization of America.
Exactly.
Right? And that is huge. And here's the thing, is having a service-based economy is so bad for the lower class. It is so bad because you can't have a meaningful career.
Exactly.
If you're like uneducated, pretty much.
Exactly.
Like you can be a plumber or a mechanic or something like that, and that requires a little bit of education. But the plumber and mechanic, they're like
they need okay,
right, and those pay pretty well.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're working at McDonald's, you're working at Walmart,
exactly,
and there's not enough jobs for everybody.
Yeah.
And also when that's the only market for jobs, and they have such a high supply for jobs, is the pay gets super low. If we had factory jobs available too, even if it was just like 30% of the population was working in like factories and had meaningful jobs where they actually produced things.
Farming,
even if it was farming, even if it was just that, even if it was just 30%, that would also increase the pay for service-based work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now the job market's more competitive and more diverse because there's more opportunity.
And this is actually something very important because we have totally destroyed the American production system through labor laws. We have
NAFTA.
NAFTA.
All of our factories went to Mexico. That's
Exactly.
problem.
Which is this is again globalism, kind of taking a step back, but still globalism, which is if we are an American first Americanism, before labor laws was not good, right?
Yes.
We had lots of people.
It was bad.
It was bad.
Probably shouldn't have kids crawling in
Caves, putting dynamite. Like that's not good. We all say no to that.
I think those of us who have seen that kid with the smoking the pipe though, that's pretty.
Yeah,
good.
that's
the 9-year-old coal miner.
But so we all say no to that. But the issue is we took it a step too far. Where now you have to get benefits. Like there are some places where like you have to get like the minimum wage $17 an hour is crazy.
Yeah,
like, that's wild.
And that's not solving anything. And the way you solve this issue is through protective economics. You protect your industries.
Exactly.
And what you see is we're losing like industrial jobs and stuff. And then also jobs in like agriculture and like other jobs where you're working with your hands end up a lot of the times going to like a lot of immigrants.
Yeah.
And and you got to realize that it's not about how much McDonald's pays. It's about this whole system.
It's about,
yeah,
exactly.
If 80% of the lower class is working in service-based jobs, that's very bad.
Exactly.
But if we can change that percent to like 50-50 or like more people working in like product-based work, then you would actually see both of those sides of the lower class economy getting better.
Which I think this is important because we're not saying boo to service-based jobs, right? And here's something is
I think just having that be the cornerstone of uneducated careers. That's the big problem.
And the thing is think about Rome. Rome was very agriculturally set. They were very set. They were comfortable, right?
Yes.
They had all the needs taken care of, and then that gave room for scientists, philosophers, all that sorts of stuff, right?
That's true, yeah.
So, but the thing is nowadays we are just scientists, philosophers, and no agriculture, nobody's building nothing, right?
Oh, it's true, yeah.
The lower class is now expected
and it's because part of this is why globalism is a problem.
Exactly.
Is because we've expanded our lower class to the entire world.
Exactly.
So
to Mexico.
The U.S. is the middle class or middle and upper class of the world.
Exactly.
And then the people who are doing the lower class jobs, like working in factories, working in agriculture, they're not here. They're elsewhere. And this is why we need to have a more closed American economy.
Exactly.
And not to say that we can't work with other people, of course, but it should be in our best interest, and I don't think this is in our best interest.
No, I think this kind of ties into cultural identity. First thing, we kind of talked about this, but our goal with our cultural identity is to be represented in federal things, right? That's one of our goals, right?
To be represented on a national level.
Right? So again, Utah should represent the Mormon culture because as much as we don't like to, as much as we don't quite think about it, Mormonism is like one of the number one religions in all of the United States. It's like Catholicism and then Mormonism, right?
I think, no, it's not Catholicism. I think it's like, there's a couple of Protestant denominations. Yeah. I'm not totally sure. I think evangelicals are number one.
Okay, that's true.
Evangelicals, Lutherans, Catholic. We're probably top 10.
Yeah.
We can look that up.
So that is something is Utah should represent the Mormon identity, right? And first thing, Utah should represent the Mormon identity, as well as Utah should represent the Mormon identity for the country, right? Just as the Vatican represents the Catholics, right? In the ancient not ancient, but medieval times. So, and the king represents the political identity, right? Yeah, Utah needs to represent the Mormon identity,
and at very least, our institutions need to represent the Mormon people, which they don't.
They don't.
Because, there's sort of this universalizing attitude in a lot of these institutions where it's not about our cultural identity and stuff. It's only about the fundamentals.
Exactly.
And we don't really give enough attention to the actual identity and the actual people.
It is less accepted now than ever before, and to a terrible extent, which is if you are a Mormon, right, and you do not work on Sundays, a lot of jobs expect you to work on Sundays, right?
Mhm.
And you say, I can't, they say, okay, then you have to find a different job. That's wild. If you're
that's
Jew,
weird, especially
every Jewish holiday off.
That is true. Yeah. Why don't we have a government that protects us? So
Exactly.
they protect all these other people.
They protect the minority, but never the majority. Well,
Exactly.
Yeah,
And this is another thing. We are, I mean, if we're talking about, Mormon Utahns and, Mormons in this whole little region, we are a far smaller minority than like black people.
yeah, exactly.
Black people have a much bigger population in the U.S. than we do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that really necessarily ties to like oppression or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in terms of population and stuff. Like,
Exactly.
we're not like white people.
No.
That's kind of a problem is we've sort of cut these things across lines. They say like white Americans.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but identity is a lot more complex than that.
Exactly.
And there's a billion different white cultures. And I think that's where, if you think about like the people who are like, white people have no culture, that sort of thing. What is white culture?
Oh,
It's the reason why we think that, though, the reason why people say that is because white identity is too broad.
yeah, exactly.
Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about Europeans? Are we talking about white people in New York, in California, in Texas, in Utah? And there's so many different subgroupings of this that we forget to acknowledge because of this way we look at identity.
Well, just as we can acknowledge that a Kenyan and an LA Crip have very different cultures.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're probably the same race. Well,
Yeah.
no. Let's say that they are.
What's LA Crips can be any race. Be Chinese.
That sounded bad. I'm just saying, just as like a black LA Crip and a black Kenyan, right?
You're talking about like inner city black culture and like that's a significant identity.
Yeah, just as those can be different. A white Utah Mormon kid, right, can have a very different identity, like a culture, than some Russian white guy in like Moscow.
Yeah,
right.
And Utahns can have a very different culture than Texans.
Exactly.
Like
very
even
different.
if they're like seen as pretty similar, there's a lot of nuance here. And when we don't really have any intellectual analysis of our culture and emphasis of our culture, that becomes a problem where we start ignoring this.
And just as a Florida, I'm guessing the two biggest Republican states out there is Florida and Texas, and
probably
they have different cultures, right?
Yeah,
very different. Like
very different cultures for sure.
Yeah, Florida's a little less interventionist than Texas is, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very less.
Head crew.
Oh, by the way, we criticize everybody. We're always criticizing, and then we find solutions. That's something I want to make this very clear.
That's something we want to be clear on, is because a big problem with the way a lot of these older conservatives go about things is they're constantly pivoting against this, pivoting against that. We say, ooh, we don't like this, we don't like that. But there's never a solution. There's never a solution. There's never okay, what do we want though? You've told us all what you don't want, but what do we want?
Yeah,
and we're here to tell you what we want, at least, and we can talk about
whether it's like the vest or whatever, that's fine. But we also want everybody to know we have solutions. We say something and we have a goal towards it, right?
Yes.
So yeah,
one of the specific things here we wanted to talk about is sort of how we approach identity in a multicultural America, because we are multicultural, and that makes things very complex. Back when federalism was like established, the idea was that these states were these individual identities.
Yeah.
And that Massachusetts had their identity and North Carolina has their identity. Yeah, absolutely. And those identities were represented by their congressmen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now we live in an America where Utah, we're majority Mormon, but we do have like a Hispanic population and a population of like people in Salt Lake City who are non-religious, and
We have
also other
population-
Protestant and other Christian groups.
exactly, yeah.
So we have all these different groups, and the question is how do we approach like representative democracy in a multicultural America,
Exactly.
where we can no longer divide these things along only like regional lines?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I think is very important, because first thing, we talk a lot about the Mormon identity, right?
Yes.
I think we might talk about this a little later, but just getting this through. We talk a lot about the Mormon identity, and we're not saying we sell out everybody else. Yeah, just purely for Mormon identity, nobody else. No, we're not at all for that. We are for the Mormon identity should be the original thought process, if that's the right way to saying it. But we don't sell out anybody else. We have to be thinking of them, right? We can't. But
Yeah,
so we have to be. But if it
Well, honestly, but like we don't exactly have to be thinking about them because we are representing us.
yeah.
But when we bring that to a stage where we're working together, like in Congress and in the national government, that is where we say, all right, what is best for us as a nation?
Yeah, or
And we just want,
state, right?
or as a state too, because we do have all these subcultures and stuff. So how do we
go about preserving the Mormon culture as well as preserving the Protestant culture, right?
Yeah, other Protestant cultures or Hispanic culture, Hispanic.
Even the
Catholic, I think, right?
the atheist culture,
Even-
right? We should
Even then,
but like still, right? You shouldn't be forced to be Mormon.
yeah, no, oh,
To be Christian, or you shouldn't be forced. If you're a Muslim, great, we don't care.
yeah, but
You just can't tell us that we need to prioritize you.
yes, and we are going to prioritize this group and this identity, and we are going to do what we see as best for us in this state.
Yeah, exactly. Cultures are not divided again like through lines. Right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have to understand this.
So the idea, like, what are congressmen even representing?
Exactly.
It's like you have Republicans and Democrats, so I guess like they represent things along those lines. There's some vague
Exactly.
commonalities within states,
Sad.
but it's never really all that clear.
Like-
There's never a definitive. I mean, some states have it. Like Texas has a pretty definitive identity.
Yeah.
There are places that have these very definitive identities, but also they're more aesthetic than anything, because we don't talk about what these identities mean on an intellectual level. We just talk about what they look like, Talk about, cowboy boots and arms, guns, like that's Texas, right?
Yeah.
But what is Texas's identity on an intellectual level?
Exactly.
What makes it
Texan to Texan.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I feel like taking these more right-wing ideologies out of intellectual spheres has been a big problem.
Exactly. Which definitely. Which I think we actually talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, we will.
We won't talk too much.
We'll
about
touch
that
on that
till we get
later. I've been all over the place. So I think I've already talked about half of the stuff we have written here.
Actually, I'm just gonna go to our next point, which we've talked about.
So, well, let's say this first. What our goals here is. Oh, is that what you were gonna say?
Oh no, you've like go ahead.
Our goals, as we said, working in the interest of Deseret, the Mormon people, and the reason we don't say Mormon people as a whole is because we love Mormon people as a whole. We love all people as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about this cultural identity that is the Jello Belt. It is the Mormon Corridor, and there's Mormons all over the world. So, while we want to, we care about them, and especially if we're talking about Mormon identity across these lines, that's also a cool thing to talk about. But it's just what we're talking about right here in terms of Mormon identity's place in America. That's why we say Deseret in this specific group. So working in the interest of this
the Mormon
group
people
and providing a perspective on state and national politics from that foundation.
exactly.
So it's because a lot of people if you think about these big news organizations that are across the nation, they don't really provide analysis from that perspective.
No.
So we're trying to do that. We are trying to provide a perspective from this foundation that we are prioritizing this identity.
Exactly. Yeah. We've talked about it a lot, which is again when we're talking about multiculturalism, is we are thinking about the Mormon Utah thing, and then we also want to think about everybody else, right?
It's true.
So
yeah.
we have to build up from the
And we want
identity.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is we all need to have perspective, because we go, okay, this thing happened in the news, this thing's happening in politics, but what does that mean to us? You know?
Exactly.
And who is us? So, yeah.
Let's see. What's an example for this? I feel like there's a really good example. Think about the Charlie Kirk shooting.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
That's, and in a Mormon culture, right? We should be like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible, right?
Yeah. I mean, most cultures.
Yeah, well, most people, right? It was actually,
Especially since I was here.
exactly.
That's,
We should be like, oh my gosh, like what first thing
what does this say about Utah? That isn't happening at UVU in the red state that is Utah.
Yes, UV freaking U, like Provo and UVU. UVU is probably like the most like, well, besides Utah. I mean BYU.
Yeah.
Besides BYU, they're like the most Mormon,
What was
conservative.
UVU's Provo?
Well, no, that's Orem. Provo.
So, okay, so they're near, yeah.
They're right next to each other.
I
So,
remember.
so basically, they, besides BYU, they're like the most Mormon white
Yeah.
culture there is, right?
Conservative, yeah.
Exactly. So what does it say for Utahns that Tyler Robinson was a Utahn? He was a Mormon, but then somewhere he switched up. He went to it was UBU. No, I might have gone to Utah.
Was it?
No, that was I think that was like a theory. Wait. Don't okay.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story that well. I'm more talking.
See, wait, let me actually
Inception.
We don't need to look this up.
Yeah,
but basically, we need to look at that. That should be our first thing. Just because it happened in Utah, it should be our, we should have an external analysis. But going back to that is as a conservative state, right, and conservative people, right?
Yeah,
and we should be like, we should look at that like, oh my gosh, right? Like we look at that very differently than like liberal California does. They're gonna be, oh my gosh, that's so sad, but he said bad things, right?
Yeah.
You saw.
Obviously, a lot of that is just intuitive because we are going to react how we are going to react because we are who we are because of our culture and stuff. But applying that to how we view our group and our place here, it's like, so that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
We're going to approach these things from what does that mean to us?
Yes.
Point of view.
We need to go. This is our next section. We have a couple of sections, by the way.
So one of the most crucial things we want to talk about, one of the most crucial ideas, and of course we're,
for Gen Z, right?
We want to talk about representative education. And I think representative education is one of the most crucial things in terms of the preservation of culture. Because so the first goal of the education system is to teach people stuff, to make it so that they can be functional members of society, so that they know the history of the nation they live in, so that they know the things they need to be a voter, to do these sorts of things, to shape them to be what they need to be an American and a Utahn.
To be a Utahn in the American system.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't be teaching people, like, here's something that goes with this, right? Is we don't teach Mexican history unless it has something to do with America, right?
Absolutely.
Mexican War, Texas. That's the only time we talk about Mexico. So why are we talking about this? Okay, moving more religiously, why are we constantly talking about, unless we're doing like world history analysis?
Why do we jump to represent these other groups, especially if we aren't doing a very good job at representing our own?
Which, okay, this is important because we saw, sorry to cut you off, but
okay,
in our school, they had Happy Kwanzaa and Happy Hanukkah, yet no Merry Christmas, no Christmas stars on top of trees, no Christian symbolry, right? And it's like, now hold up. Not a single person in our school is Jewish. Not a single in our
maybe
celebrate
2 or 3
or ethnically, but not religiously. We would, you see, like
true. And it just says something about the mindset here that we can't represent okay, we live in Davis County.
Yeah,
this is 75% Mormon.
Yeah,
and we can't represent them. And also, that's just 75% Mormon. That's not Christian. Because I do know there's other Christians. I think we have like a couple Catholic friends and stuff. Like,
we're like 80% Christian, and then because like literally in Salt Lake City they have a Catholic church, right? So there's a lot of other Christians.
True.
But we are 75% Mormon.
Yeah, Mormon alone. And yet we can't represent that, but we also need to represent these other things. And look, if the school system needs to like do that, and I get like, you know, we want to make sure that if there are these groups that are in the education system, they should probably also be represented. But what's the point in representing them and not us? That's my only thought here. And what we don't realize is we know what the education system intentionally does, right?
Yeah.
It intentionally teaches us what we need to do to function in society, as I was talking about.
Yes.
But what does the education system do unintentionally? And the education system shapes the perspectives and the ideals of entire generations at a time.
So let's talk about, we had some very nice people in our class. They're very nice people. But when we were talking about, what is it? Andrew Jackson, and they were like, oh my gosh, he's so terrible. And we're like, okay, hold up.
Like,
we don't agree with the Indian Removal Act.
that was bad, yeah.
Bad. But you know what else he did? Brought in the common voter, right? Got rid of a national bank, which sucked.
Tried to implement regional banks and stuff, which was probably, you know,
he was a lot of
idea.
regionalist, and yeah.
But it's just this conclusion that we jump to because like that's what they choose to focus on, and that's what we mean is regardless of how much we want to believe in the idea of unbiased education, education will always have a perspective. It will always be coming from some point of view, some set of ideals, and the fact that we choose to focus on the Indian Removal Act with Andrew Jackson rather than this or that or this is, it goes to show that these perspectives are sort of being given to us in some sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's being not even given to us. It's being forced to us, right?
to some extent.
We were in AP history, and we were watching this like video in class, and they're like talking about how the slave revolt, how it killed 30 babies.
Yeah, they were talking about like how they were the slave revolt. They're like, oh, they killed these babies and these women and stuff.
And in the middle of the video, they're like talking about how 30 people got killed. And they go, and they're like, and 30 people got killed. But you can see how
you can see why they'd be mad, right?
It's like, and what's like, freak? No, can we not just admit that was terrible? Like, absolutely,
that's absolutely terrible,
right?
And
it's so, and it's all, there's so much of it. Like, we can't escape it. You have
absolutely,
to classes,
and especially when the academia is so concentrated on like, there's just these standards for how we approach academic things. And that's just the standard for the nation. That's a big problem.
Which I think is also important, right? Coming back to like Utah and Deseret and preserving our culture is, first thing, our culture is constantly under attack. Like, okay, here's thing number one is we learn a lot about abolition, Civil War, all that stuff when it didn't even happen in Utah at all. Right?
Yeah, we learn about that
away.
As we need to learn about American history.
We do.
And if we're learning about American history, like, of course we're going to touch on that. But if we talk about the disproportionality in how we approach abolition and all this stuff, and then we briefly mentioned the Mormons.
Yeah, by the way, there was the Mormons over there.
By the way, the Second Great Awakening, Mormons, they went to Utah and did stuff.
Which is very important because little does everybody know that the Mormons were the only group in the entire history of the United States of America where it was legal to kill somebody, right?
Yeah.
Even slaves.
Extermination Act, yeah.
You couldn't kill slaves.
You could probably get away with it.
Right?
Yeah, and that's bad.
But you couldn't kill slaves.
Never stated outrightly that, like...
Exactly.
Just like, go ahead, you know?
Yeah, it's fine. But no, you can't do that. But that was illegal. And also, does anybody out there know about the Utah War? Probably not. Because the government came and fought a war in all of Utah and took Utah as a state and then forced polygamy. They got rid of polygamy. They unforced it.
They
enforced zero polygamy.
Yeah.
Right. So that, which is which is crazy, right? And we don't talk about it ever.
Yeah.
Nobody. And now it's one thing now talking about in California. It's a different thing you're talking about it in Mormon, Davis County, Utah, and Farmington High.
Yeah, and actually, let's talk about, because of course we do talk about U.S. history and we talk about America.
Yeah.
But I also took Utah history. I took Utah history in 7th grade, and the first semester is about Native Americans.
Exactly. An entire semester. It's just so unrepresented. And it's like, it's one thing.
And it's like they're going out of their way
Yeah.
to not represent us. And that's the real problem here, all right?
And can't not.
What we want to talk about here is the myth of unbiased history and unbiased education. Because we sort of have this belief that through like secular ideology and through, just like non-religious ideals, we're going to be unbiased. And that's not true at all.
Yeah.
That's not true at all. And we will never be objective in these things. All we can be is representative. It's not like, the idea that we can take these things as true and say like, oh, these are the morals that are objectively true, these like secular utilitarian morals and things like these, and say this is what is true and we are going to impose this on everybody. We think that these secular ideologies aren't anything, but they are something.
They really are.
And they are when these ideals replace our ideals.
So, okay, this is the big thing. Secularism is not unbiased. It is very much biased. Because think about this. If you're in the science class and you're learning about the Big Bang, but everybody in the classroom believes that it was God creating the earth, right?
Yeah.
That's something, right? Because science, okay, first thing, science is how we view things naturally, right?
Yeah. But it's, of course, I'm not like saying like we should be teaching like God creationism in schools.
Which but you can't be like it is Big Bang Theory when like all the students in the classroom believe it's not Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, and the bigger problem with that is, and also to be fair, one of the unique things about Mormonism is we do actually, there's a lot of scientific aspects of Mormonism. Joseph Smith was one of the, I believe, I might be getting this wrong, but I believe he was one of the first people to estimate the age of the universe in like the trillions of years or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And whereas most...
And then it became to be true in the trillions of years.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's just that like, even if we say like we're going to try and represent these people and we're not going to impose these things upon them.
Exactly.
If these teachers have these beliefs about like, this is true, that is true, and we're not going to try and represent what these people we're teaching believe, that can be a big problem.
It's just we have a view that there are things out there that are unbiased by taking away the common identity or stuff,
Yeah.
which is totally untrue, right? Secularism is biased.
Secularism is an ideology.
It is an ideology.
There's numerous ideologies. There's a lot of philosophies you can adopt as a secular person, but it is an ideology. We sort of have this perception of like, this is rational, this is irrational.
Exactly.
And like, even if we're talking about like acceptance and stuff, it's not even about acceptance. It's about representation.
Exactly. Well, and here's something that's very interesting. We all say the winners write the history books, but then we never actually acknowledge.
Yeah, we're not willing to apply that. We're not willing to say, hey, maybe we have a harsher view of like the Confederates or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're never willing to apply certain things with this logic.
I think being critical of not basically everything is very important because we need to understand both sides.
And what we want to talk about here is what we kind of propose as our alternative to this sort of unbiased, rational education is representative education.
Exactly.
And this means that we need education that enforces the identities of the people that they represent.
Not only this, English as well. English, oh my gosh, English is so important. And we teach a lot of things in English that do not represent us. Like, how come we're teaching how to make students feel welcome when we should be teaching
and what is actually the responsibility of teachers on a societal level? And what is the influence of teacher on a societal level?
Teaching should be a profession, not a hobby, not some side quest that you have, side hustle. If you're gonna go out, if you're gonna retire and go teach, you should be teaching stuff you knew, right, in your field.
Yeah,
I had a business teacher who was crazy at business and then retired and was like, you know, you like made like millions of dollars and retired and was like, you know what, I'm gonna go teach, which is that's beautiful.
That's
right?
amazing.
They know the field, they know what they're doing, and I'm not just gonna have some teacher who pulls out a paper and like reads off a whole document, right? Because this person knows from experience, right? Which is very, very important. And all these teachers are like, oh, we want more pay, we want better pay wages and all this sorts of stuff. But it's like, okay, then we should fire half of you. No, 3/4 of it should be fired. I mean, we should raise the pay.
We should raise the pay, have less teachers, and make teaching a more serious.
College professors should be the top level, top level, right? If you're a college professor, you're crazy, which is that same way. But a lot of the college professors aren't that crazy at their jobs, and they just
are a lot better for sure.
But they basically just taught in like a high school for like 16 years, and like now I'm a college professor, and it's like
unless you're like a really good college, but like that's for the most.
But like think about. Like Elon Musk, if he ever retires, he should be teaching in a college, right? Well,
I mean, yeah, sure. Like people who are really successful in their field, like
Bill Gates, if he wants to go teach right now, great, and he should be able to teach, right? Now, at first, he shouldn't be able to teach like political science, right?
Yeah, true.
Because he knows nothing about that, but he should be able to go teach business classes, computer classes. Then as a level 1 genius.
Obviously, it's more clear when we talk about something like math. Like, if you're a math teacher, you should know your math, and you should know why you're teaching these kids math and all this. But history, it's like, why are you teaching them history? Exactly. And I think a lot of the intent for most of these teachers, either they don't have like a intent other than they like
they just like history,
or their intent is not really what we need on like a social and political level.
They're trying a lot of these, especially history teachers, which I love all my history teachers, but they're very nice. And most of them have actually, for me, I've had pretty good teachers, but I know there are teachers who teach because they think that they're trying to like, morally get back and teach the real history. And it's like, no, it's not the real history. It's just some like liberal science school or whatever. Why do so many history videos, right? Like National Geographic's history videos, why do so many of them have opinions everywhere?
It's true. Yeah. Like, that's kind of weird.
Going back to the thing where they were like...
I don't know, because also if we want it to be unbiased, because I don't necessarily even think it needs to be unbiased, but if we're aiming for an unbiased view and like a factual view on these things, then why do we give these opinions? It's like Andrew Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to think Andrew Jackson was good, but if you're trying to be unbiased, you shouldn't portray him as bad.
Yeah, well, and not only that, if you are...
That's okay if you say, actually, we don't care about being unbiased. Exactly. We want to, teach based off of this or that set of morals. Then we go, okay, that's good. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to teach based off no morals.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yes, we are going to portray certain things as bad and certain things as good.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, we shouldn't be teaching this from a set of morals that don't represent the morals of these communities and these kids, because you're shaping generations of kids, and you're sort of, in some senses, for at least a portion of them, replacing or messing with their set of morals and their set of beliefs, because you are educating them from a set of morals and beliefs that are different.
Exactly. I think this is beautiful segue to talk about our next section, which is spineless conservatism.
Yes, this is one of our biggest problems with conservatism as it is today.
What are we conserving?
Exactly. You ask a conservative, a Republican, you're a conservative, what are you conserving?
Governor Cox is supposed to be the conservative voice, yet he vetoed the trans in sports.
And that's a big problem with having parties that don't represent our unique system. Because if you look at swing states tend to have better governors.
Exactly.
Because
they have to
they have to fight for it. They have to fight for it. And in Utah, we don't really have that because whoever the Republican candidate is going to win.
Exactly.
But even talking about people who aren't like Governor Cox, people who are like, strong conservatives who are like, just, I don't care what people think, I'm going to criticize this and this. Even those people, what are you for though? Exactly. Because these people say, oh, I don't like that. And I don't care what you say. I don't like this thing.
Exactly.
I don't like this or that. I don't like abortion. I don't care what you say about it. And it's like, okay, but what do you like? What is your goal? What do you want? What do you want our state to look like? What do you want America to look like? This is the issue with having conservatives as of now be so afraid of identity politics.
Exactly.
Is because if you aren't willing to acknowledge identity, then what are you trying to conserve? How do you expect that to work? You're not willing to acknowledge what you're actually conserving.
Exactly.
You have no ideals. And this is part of the reason why I think right-wing thought has failed so much with young people, is because it doesn't give us any real vision. It doesn't say, this is what we could look like.
Exactly.
This is what our state, our people, our country, our whatever could look like.
Exactly.
It just says, ooh, we don't like this, we don't like that, we don't like this. And I think part of that is because of fear.
I think this is why Charlie Kirk was so popular with young people, was because he was like, okay, I don't like college. And then you go, okay, great. And then you go, so I think what we need to do is have more
true
experience. And
yeah,
go,
people would go,
great,
like,
amazing, we know that.
We'll complain, we'll go, oh, housing prices, this is bad. And a lot of conservatives don't really have a solution to that. And I think that's another reason why a lot of young people go to the left, is because the left provides solutions, whether they're good or bad, to certain issues. They say, oh, we're going to,
we're going to
rent control,
free housing,
higher minimum wage. But conservatives don't really have a solution to compete with that. And what you see with Charlie Kirk, why he was so popular, I mean, one of the things he said, I think this was him, was he was talking about housing prices, and he was talking about how big corporations shouldn't be allowed to buy family housing and stuff, like Blackstone and stuff. So
which is
we need solutions-based conservatism, and we need vision-based conservatism. We need to say, what do we actually value? What do we want? And it's a big problem when we don't have that. And another issue why I think that a lot of young people go to the left is that there's not a lot of right-wing intellectualism. There's not, like, in colleges and stuff, a lot of right-wing intellectualism. And we mostly, like, the closest thing there is libertarianism. And, libertarianism's all right. I'm not a huge fan. Better than socialism, probably. But there's no genuine right-wing thought. There's no, like, you'll be seen as stupid if you bring up, like, religious and conservative values in, like, academic philosophical discussions.
Exactly.
And you'll also, like, protectionist and nationalist economics and these sorts of things, those are sort of seen as failed experiments and even very problematic experiments,
I think this also kind of brings us to our next part, which is hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy, that's huge.
We as Republicans, we don't like to admit it. We say the left has lots of hypocrisies. We do too.
Well, we do too, and I think some of them come out of fear.
Yeah.
Some of them, because let's talk about immigration, for example, is a lot of conservatives will go like, oh, no more illegal immigrants. And it's like, okay, but are you cool with mass immigration if it's legal?
Exactly.
And people just want to hide behind these things like, oh, we're scared of immigration because of crime and because of drugs and this stuff. And on a more fundamental level, I think the issue is like, it demographically totally changes the country, and it affects the job market, and we don't want to acknowledge those things because those ideas are seen as problematic.
Exactly.
There's this hypocrisy there. And there's we beat around the bush sometimes.
Yeah.
And specifically with the immigration thing is we don't want to be like insensitive or whatever. And we don't want to like be like, oh, we don't want immigrants. We don't want to sound like that because.
Yeah, because we feel like that's wrong. That's anti-American.
So it's like, oh, I just don't want criminals and stuff. But on some level, that comes across as more offensive.
Exactly.
Because that means you're kind of stereotyping immigrants as like criminals. Even if there is like disproportionality there, like they go, what about the good immigrants? And it's like, that's not the point.
The point is
That shouldn't be the point. And some people want to make it the point because it's an easy thing to hide behind.
exactly. Let's get this very clear. We want to conserve our culture, right? When you have an influx of a different migrant population with different culture, we don't like that, and it's okay to not like that. It's
okay to have a problem with that.
It's okay to be like, no, we want our own culture, right? Because think of this: if we have an American culture here, if we let let's say we let all the French in here, and we are going to have a French. Then it's no longer an American culture. The American culture just died. Now it is a French culture. That's same with a Mexican culture or like a Indian culture.
Yeah.
Like as in like Asian Indian. Or Chinese culture or Japanese culture. That's why Japanese culture is preserved for so long, right?
Yes.
Because they are very anti-immigration.
Yeah.
Poland's the same way. Which it's okay to say that. I can totally say that I would like to preserve my culture.
And there is things different with America where it is a little bit harder for us to preserve our culture in the same way like Japan or Poland could. And I think there's reason for that.
Yeah, because we are a multicultural,
multiracial,
which is
nation. And that's fine. I mean, like, that's not a problem.
Yeah. But we also do have an American identity where if we have a mass immigration.
And we also have subgroups, sub-identities, and we shouldn't allow them to be outnumbered by other groups. So we need to, I don't know, and that's been the immigration policy, like, forever, is that we let in a number that allows us to maintain, like, a current status.
Exactly.
And not have these, like, which massive demographic changes.
I think this segues to a very big reason why the Republicans are losing, have been losing. They're starting to gain it back, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. But did you know that Gen Z was the number one voter for Trump?
Gen Z has been looked at as like, they're just like millennials number 2. They're these liberals. They're that was how we were stereotyped for a long, long time.
Which this is very important, everybody. I want to get 2 things clear. First thing, we hate millennials more than anybody else. We hate millennials.
I'm not a fan.
Like if you are a millennial, we're fine.
Just like the millennial generally speaking,
the woke college millennial ideology. We hate it so much. All Gen Z hates it. And also, this is very important. All you guys who think that Gen Alpha is going to save us.
Yeah, who thinks that?
Okay, hold up. You guys have to understand this though. These people were raised by the millennials. These people are going to cook you all. All are going to be cooked. If
we're all given iPads instead of bingies and stuff, because they were raised by these millennials, and Gen Alpha's like kind of cooked. They're not.
They're going to be the wannabe Gen Z. We've talked about this for hours and hours and hours. We've come to the conclusion.
Yes,
it is.
We've done the research. We've done the research.
But did you know Gen Alpha is having so many huge problems in high school junior high, because they don't know how to get off an iPad. They don't know how to do work.
Their attention span is totally cooked. There's a lot of psychological damage that has been done by the irresponsibility of millennial parents.
Which here's the thing though, is Gen Z. We also don't have a large attention span, right?
Yeah, we've had it a little.
Which is all the younger generations have it, right? Because of technology. But here's the thing, you guys don't understand that. First thing, we are not all just depressed.
But at least, I don't know.
We are not enough. So like if we got in a war, some of them are just gonna like all die out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we really are the generation who's going to convert back, because we are so done with the like whole being called like racist things and all that sorts of stuff.
Absolutely.
Are you Eddie, by the way?
So like, I don't know. There's a lot of misconceptions about Gen Z.
And this brings us to the very last point.
This is the end.
But this is the end.
Thanks for watching. If you watched to this point,
if you actually got here.
Yeah.
Okay. Normally it won't be this long, but this is the thing. We are going in the 2026 midterms. We are going to take back our culture. We're going to take back our cities.
And we are going to analyze this is what we want to try and provide, I guess, is firstly, we're going to do other videos about like our opinions and stuff. Of course. But one of the biggest things with the 2026 midterms coming up, we want to really focus in on that. And we want to talk about it from this perspective that we've outlined here.
So I think that ends it perfectly.
I think that ends it. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, guys.
Very, very long. But we are so glad that you guys watched this. And please, I don't know, like or whatever, subscribe.
Like and subscribe. I don't know.
Watch our next one. It probably it won't be this long and it won't be this kind of, chaotic. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching.
Please watch another.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.